So if you've watched my videos for any length of time, you'll know that one of my favorite things to talk about or point out is shot shape, because I think that regardless of strong, weak, sharp, smooth, so on and so forth, shot shape is maybe the most important part of matching a ball to a bowler, but it's also one of the more difficult things to explain and illustrate at the same time. Saying things like round, archy, tumbly, continuous, directional, forward, so on and so forth can be kind of muddy and unfortunately create confusion, even though the terms are meant to add more clarification. As a lefty, I was more limited on coordination, or what I could effectively do to illustrate differences in shot shapes, so while I tried to do several of these kinds of videos, I couldn't accurately display or illustrate what I was talking about. With the danger zone as a righty, I can illustrate forward, directional, and continuous all with the same ball and do it very simply. On its own, the danger zone is a clean, responsive, arcing, directional reaction, and this is my normal shot that I'll show a few times just to illustrate. Clean means that it skids or glides down the lane relatively easily. I don't have to really throw it hard to get it down the lane. Responsive means when it starts hooking or moving, it does so very quickly or very sharply. Arcing is the toughest one to describe, so a rounder shape would be like an alert. Black Widow Tour V1, IQ Tour Solid, Black Hammer. Arcing would be this ball, of course. Black Widow 3.0 is a great example. Phase 2, Venom Shock. But it's more of a reaction that can be continuous, but is typically a little more defined on the back end, even when it's smoother like the 3.0, or there's a more identifiable change in direction, even if it's not necessarily responsive or sharp. And it's typically not quite as naturally continuous as rounder shapes. So logically speaking, I would say that directional and archy tend to go hand in hand. To move on before I get off the rails and make this more complicated than I wanted to, finally, directional means that the ball travels on the back end in the direction that it's being rotated. If you get more up the back of the ball and rotate it more forward, it'll roll more forward. If you do like I'm doing here and give it about a 45-degree angle, it'll pick up and go that way. And if you get more around it, it'll be more continuous. Balls that are naturally continuous on their own will try to pick up and move further to the left of the direction that it's being rotated. Balls that are naturally forward will, on their own, try to straighten out and go further to the right of the direction that they're being rotated. Speaking from a right-handed point of view, flip that for a lefty. Directional balls are technically the most versatile because they're the most responsive to mechanical or physical adjustments or manipulation, because they're going to do what you tell them to do and go the direction you tell them to go, rather than trying to do what they naturally want to do. That's why balls like the Phase 2 and Venom Shock have been around forever. They're more versatile, directional, arcing shapes. So now we'll go through this 3-shot sequence, and these were all intentional. I was trying to illustrate the different shot shapes for the live comm. This first shot, I'm rolling more forward, so I rotate the ball much more in the direction that the ball is traveling, and I also use a little less tilt. I do this so that I can get the ball to go straighter down lane. This is the Chris Barnes trick, and what he really likes to see. Get up the back of the ball, then get it to stop and go forward, so that you can really control exactly what's happening on the back end. Because I rotate the ball more forward, when the ball starts to pick up and move, it rolls in the direction that it's being rotated. This is helpful for when back ends are sharper or for when the lanes are tighter and you have more inconsistency. This will get the ball to pick up a little earlier and go straighter down lane so that you can play smaller or more shallow angles, keep the ball in front of you, and keep the ball pass straighter and make it more controllable overall. Shot 2 is my normal shot. I typically have about a 40 to 45 degree angle of rotation and actually have a little tilt now. That's what's most comfortable for me. So you can see that instead of the angular hook set of the more forward release, it still has that defined hockey stick kind of reaction, but it's a little longer, a touch rounder on the back end, a little more continuous, and I will play all 3 of these back to back to back a handful of times so that you can see the differences. But when you get more up the back of it, the chance of a flat corner or an 8-pin naturally goes up, but so does your chance of hitting the pocket. When I'm on a fresh shot and can throw it normally, this is going to be the most forgiving because it's right in the middle. It's not forward, but it's not continuous, so it'll get through the pins the best. I'll still be able to control the back end move somewhat, but be able to give it a bit more room or get it back from more angle. It'll trip 4s and kick 10s. So I think naturally this is the most ideal, but it also requires a little forgiveness in the lane condition, or a condition that doesn't require you to have to do more specific things with your release. Lastly, we have what I call the tilt-a-whirl. Added a bit more tilt, plus I'm getting around it more, and look at the ball motion through the pins now. It blends the back end reaction more and changes the reaction on the back end fairly significantly. Now it's much rounder and extremely continuous. Adding tilt and getting around the ball more is useful when you have drier heads, so when people say they're spinning it, this is what they mean. When the ball spins more like a top, it's not able to grab as much, so that slightly reduces the traction and slows down the back end reaction, but usually makes the ball reaction quite a bit more continuous because the response to the friction isn't as fast. Now, if we watch all of them in succession from forward to normal to continuous, you can see first we have the forward, more upright roll that's a hook set type of look. Little tighter angle control, very simple readable reaction that's going to help you hit the pocket a lot. The more normal shot isn't a ton different, but a little more around it, a little more tilt, and I have a more forgiving and versatile roll that, if you watch the review, allowed me to play all over the lane. Then lastly, more tilt, more rotation, really continuous reaction that gets through the fronts easier and then chases the 7-pin off the deck. This kind of shot is a lot more useful towards the end of the day when the heads are getting burnt and you're having to open your angles up. If you're playing 5th arrow later in the day, it can be really difficult to get the ball through the pins right if you're more up the back of it trying to control your angles. By adding tilt and getting more around it, you can clear drier or burnt heads easier and get it to cover boards a lot easier, which will put you in much better situations at and through the pins. Balls like this that let you do several things with the shot shape are very important to have in the bag because they allow you to be able to stay in the same ball longer. If you're already comfortable with a ball and it's fitting the conditions you're on, it's frustrating to have to make a ball change because what you're using doesn't want to move left. Or maybe it keeps driving by 9s, or maybe another ball looks good too, but you have to wait to use it until you get deeper on the lane because it's too flippy to play straighter with, so on and so forth. The Danger Zone is a one-stop shop that can play virtually anywhere and do virtually anything because you can get more up the back of the ball and keep it more in front of you. Or you can throw a normal shot for a few arrows. Then you can still conquer drier heads and get it back from anywhere by adjusting your shot shape. This is the best illustration I can give you of why I harp on shot shape so much and why saying a ball is directional is about the best compliment that I can give it. Rounder, more continuous shapes, I think, are ultimately a little bit more forgiving. I think they make the pocket a little bit bigger, but they're also sometimes less useful because they don't have the range that a ball like this does. You can also see that if you naturally have a more forward roll, this ball will go where you roll it, but it won't jerk or stop or give up. It'll go forward, but without dying. By contrast, if you really get around the ball, it'll pick up and go, but still control that somewhat too. This is why I said that I think this ball can work for virtually any bowler style. It's just going to be down to conditions. It does get after it, so it's not going to be a dry lane ball, but it's obviously not a hook monster for heavy, fresh conditions either. But there's a very wide range of conditions and situations in between that it's going to be very effective on. Okay, this is all fine and good, but I'm not built like that. I don't even have an A game, let alone the ability to make physical adjustments like this. This is my real point though. So as a lefty, I didn't really have much of an A game either. With my lower rev, medium speed, and more forward and slightly tilted roll, I needed rounder shapes that were going to pick up and continue through the pins for me because directional stuff was hit and miss, and forward stuff was just straight up a no-go. This is why balls like the Alert, Black Widow Mania, Tour V1, Stealth Mode, so on and so forth look so good for me as a lefty, but balls like the Pure Envy, Maximum Effect, and Hammer Effect were mediocre to bad. By contrast, both of my Storm testers, Zach and Tobias, had trouble with more naturally continuous reactions because their games create such continuous ball motions in the first place, and Tobias especially prefers more forward shapes to help slow down or straighten out the ball's path through the pocket. This explains why very similar balls like the Stealth Mode and Hazmat Solid created such different results for me. The Stealth Mode is a very round and continuous shape, while the Hazmat Solid is much more of a hockey stick directional shape. All it did was hook stop on me, while the Stealth Mode was almost a magic ball, despite them both being strong symmetric solids that had almost identical strengths and friction responses. It all came down to shot shape. The Phase 2 is amazing for me on the right side, but it's a puke machine on the left, so if you're hit and miss with certain kinds of balls and you can't figure out why, find out what all the balls that you like best have in common, and I'll bet that the common denominator throughout is going to be the shot shape. Thanks for watching, and may the strikes be with you.